Hello and welcome. Now, today's YouTube video is a little bit different because I'm doing a voiceover, which feels very unnatural for me, especially because this video is quite a long one, but I was planning on making it quite chatty. So buckle in, grab a tea, get comfy, and we'll get into it. Today I made something big, and I haven't made a lot of big stuff, so it was definitely a challenge, and it most definitely did not go to plan, but we'll get to that later on in the video. I started off by weighing, I think it was like 2.5 kilograms, and then I wedged it. This clay has been freshly pugged, so I didn't really need to wedge it, but I wanted to prepare the clay a bit better before I started this bigger piece. Also, I am filming on a different camera, but I kind of love it. It's kind of giving the vibe of like an early 2000s TV show. Anyway, I had a rough idea of what I wanted this to look like. I'd seen something on Pinterest and I thought, that looks sick, I want to do it. I had to get this clay centered first, and centering balls of clay is quite the challenge, but I saw this video where this person centered the top part and then centered the bottom, so that's what I did with this one, and it seemed to really help. Start by patting this clay into a mountain shape because it kind of does half of the work for me. It just makes my life easier when I go to cone it up rather than if it was in a different shape. I cone it down by tipping the top bit forward, and then it kind of falls into itself. Then all that clay spirals down and mixes in with the water really well. I had to use a lot of my big muscles to get this one up as well. My arms were literally like shaking from trying to squeeze it into the middle. But that's okay because now I'll be all big and strong. To give a bit of context, I started making pottery in 2022 was when I did my first beginner's course. Then I did a 12-week course a few months later, and both of these courses were more of a general overview of the different types of way that you could make pottery. So there was hand building and coiling and throwing. To be honest, the hand building didn't really interest me that much. I was really drawn to throwing. I didn't really like coiling or hand building. I went on to do 3 more 10-week courses, and I tried to do some hand building because it is easier when you're a beginner to get something finished out of hand building rather than throwing. But I just did not like it at all, and actually the stuff that I was making hand building was so totally crap. So I just stuck to throwing and tried to just get better at that. And when I moved to Australia, I got a membership at a studio and basically just did throwing. I didn't do any hand building. And that was also when I discovered Mr. Florian Gadsby, the absolute legend. And as you can probably tell, this YouTube video is pretty similar to the way he does his as well. But when I started watching his YouTube videos, my throwing just went to a different level, and I managed to make cups that were actually big enough to have a big cup of tea out of. Because also, I always forget that clay has to go and bloody shrink in the kiln, doesn't it? So I make something and I'm like, yeah, that'll do, that's a really good size. And then when it's finished, it's like tiny and it's gone away. But I think I'm just about getting used to the shrinkage now. Oh, I'm doing something different in the video, so I'll get back to that. I am making a hole to form the base here, and I like to use the side of my hand to push that top bit down because then it already creates a kind of slope for me to push down into. This is a good angle, isn't it? It's very Florian Gadsby-esque. But now I'm creating the base of my pot, and I didn't want it to be too wide, so I didn't pull it out very far, and I think I left it quite thick at the bottom. I then use my thumb to compress the base down to make sure that there won't be any cracks in it and make sure it's nice and flat. I then choked in that rim to get ready to pull up the walls, and I wanted to do that really cool thing that I've seen other people do where I put both of my hands around and then just lift it up like that, and I think I did it a bit, but probably not very well. I love doing the first pulls on pots. I think it's the most satisfying thing ever, and I really like to use my knuckle, especially on bigger pieces, because I feel like I can get quite a lot of clay up. I was also trying to just use the slip from my hands to pull up the walls instead of loads of water, because I knew that if I saturated the walls too much then it wouldn't stand up. But because I kept on having to change around the camera angles, I was wiping off that slip from my hands to change it. So I might give it another go off camera just to see if it made a difference. But I also love using a sponge to pull up the walls because I feel like it grips onto the clay really well and it will soak up any like extra moisture in the walls. I find pottery just the most therapeutic thing in the world. I love using my hands to make stuff, and because they're covered in clay, I can't go on my phone or anything, so I'm just completely focused on what I'm doing. And it gives me something to like look forward to and give me a purpose and all that kind of stuff. I'm very much still figuring out my style and exactly the kind of things that I want to make, especially when it comes to glazing and decorating. I made a big mistake there. I don't really know what happened, but I think my knuckle just got caught on something. I don't know whether I was trying to bring up too much clay, but I think I managed to save it. I really want to start making these videos also just to document my progress, to see how my style and technique changes over the years. I feel like this will be such a nice thing to look back on, because I'm still quite early in my pottery journey. Like, I've still got so much left to learn. Well, we're always going to be learning, aren't we? Because it's not possible for one person to know everything there is about a subject. I tried pulling up the walls by just cupping them and trying to lift them up. I don't actually know if this is a thing, I just feel like I've seen people do it. Now I feel like this was probably a good time for me to stop pulling up, but classic me, I never know when to stop. And I think I tried to pull up too many times, which is probably why it went wrong later. But this is the thing I struggle with, like there was still so much clay at the bottom that I had to pull up, but it just buckled. I think it was because the walls were just too soft and they couldn't hold themselves up anymore. But to be fair, this is actually looking good. There was just so much clay at the bottom, which is why I carried on pulling it up. I got rid of that extra skirt at the bottom and then I went to shaping it, which at first was going really well. I wanted the bottom bit to come out slightly, so I was pushing from the inside to bring that clay out. This shape is something I just found on Pinterest, so I'm kind of copying, which is fine. You have to do a lot of copying to find your own style, but I don't know if it's very me just because I actually didn't make the shape, but also I don't know what my style is yet. It'll be nice to keep making these videos and hopefully see my style develop. This pot is already going all kinds of wobbly and it kind of just goes downhill from here. I tried to define the bottom part and then get to work on the top part, but I don't think I left enough clay at the top to work with. And I was also making the shape from memory. I didn't take a close look at it before I started making it, which was probably another thing that went wrong, because I actually don't know if this is what the shape looked like or not, like the specifics of the shape, you know. I think that shoulder is too wide and the angle at which it goes in is too sharp, which made this top bit keep buckling inwards. And then I tried to lift it back up, but then every time I'd go back to work on that top bit, it would just buckle in again. And then I was just like lifting it up and it going back in, and it just didn't work. I probably should have just left it there, but it did not go to plan. So I had to ditch the whole thing altogether and come up with something completely different. I still kept going with it for a while before I admitted defeat. Like, I really thought I could make it work, but it had just been overdone. The clay was getting bloody sick of me and it did not want to go into the shape that I wanted it to go in, and that is fine. So I ended up pulling that whole top section up and out, and I really wanted to get a vase out of this, so I was not going to put it into Reclaim. So I thought I'm just going to leave it there, I'm going to let it dry out and then do something with it when it's leather hard. I feel like this voiceover has been like super duper boring, but it's my first time doing a really long one, so I can't be interesting the whole time, do you know what I mean? But I made these like dents with my hands in the vase, so they were like wavy, you know? And I started to make some cool lines, but then I didn't think about the clay that was left on the outside and the shape that would be. So it was kind of just weird marks in the clay rather than it looking like the piece was folding. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it does to me, so you're just gonna have to live with it. Sorry. Then once I was kind of happy with how it looked like that, I knew I needed to carve away some more because those walls at the bottom were so goddamn thick. So I grabbed these trimming tools and just carved away even more. Also, the firing fee is measured by weight, so the lighter I can get this piece, the cheaper it will be for me. So I just started cutting out big chunks of where I'd put the marks, and I made it flow a bit better, I think. Like, honestly, I don't know what the fuck this is, but it's good to experiment and have a little play and see what's what, right? I also do like the idea of throwing a big piece and then adding like hand-built elements onto it. Now it was hard enough to turn over, so I carved into the side, and this part of the trimming made some really cool wavy lines. I don't know if you can see that at the bottom, but it made the surface go really wavy, which I thought looked sick, mate. Also, I forgot to mention, I did carve away a bit too much on the other bit, and I did make a hole somewhere, but I think I managed to patch it up all right, and I saved it. Then I carved in a foot ring, and this is probably the most satisfying bit of all. Look at those lovely little ribbons that are coming off. That's so nice. Again, very Florian Gadsby vibes. We all know he loves his trimming, don't we? Then I took her off the wheel and gave her a once over, and I carved in a few more lines that were more like sharp rather than the smoothed over big chunks. But now my next challenge is going to be decorating it and glazing it. I don't know whether to go for one colour or do some kind of design on it, or whether it doesn't need it because it's already got a lot of movement, but that's for another day. We don't need to worry about that right now. But thank you so much for watching. If you got this far, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did and I can make more like it. Please like and comment and subscribe, and I will see you next week for another video.